Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Lacs Fishing Report. It's the end of September and water temps are in the upper 50s. We've experienced some big changes in the last 10 days. Water temps have dropped about 10 degrees. We're seeing a lot more of the fall colors, and we've had our first real hard frost about 2 or 3 days ago. So big changes are in the weather right now, and that's going to create some changes for fishing too. We'll get started with the muskies. The muskies over the last 10 days or so, we've had some up days and some down days on them. Earlier this week, we had a couple of fish eat. We had one go on a bucktail and another one go on a glide bait. What I would recommend doing right now is fishing deeper weed lines wherever you can find good green cabbage. There's a lot of cabbage that's dying out there right now, maybe covered in a little bit of moss. But if you can find good, fresh green cabbage, that's the place to be. That's where most of our action has come from. We are at a transition right now where we're going to see a lot more fish moving up into the shallows, especially when you have a day where it's trending a little bit warmer. So it's definitely worth checking out maybe some of those shallow sandy spots. As far as baits go, what I would recommend doing, glide baits are a great way to move fish. Like I said, we had one eat a glide bait earlier this week. It's a great way to get some action out here. The other thing is just the mainstay bucktail, and you can use large or small bucktails. I generally go with a darker color bucktail on a darker day and a brighter one on a brighter day. But just fish those deeper weed lines wherever you have good cabbage. There's definitely fish still there, and they'll be using that for weeks to come. On to the walleye report. We've had mixed success on walleyes this week, and that's kind of because we've had mixed conditions, I think. What I have noticed is that some of the stuff that was working better for us, the shallower rocks, they've been kind of inconsistent. We've still had good days on them, especially in the evenings, but it's not every day. So what I would do is I would stay fluid. I'd be ready to move around, hop a couple different spots, and just be willing to check out new areas. Now, some of the better rock piles that we've had over the last month or so have been in 10 to 12 feet of water, wherever you're finding large rock to gravel transitions. That's been hit or miss, but when it's going well, and it's definitely more of a morning-evening bite. The other stuff that's a little more consistent is the mid-depth rocks. If you had some wind, I would recommend fishing that 18 to 24 foot rock range. We've had good days out there. But if it gets really flat calm, it might pay to go a little bit deeper, going out to the gravel bars and the mud flats. And what I noticed out there on calm days, it's pretty easy to find the fish on those two different structures. But the ones that are on the edges that are so typically good, we're a little bit reluctant to bite. So what I started doing was moving up to the tops of the flats, up to the tops of the gravel bars, and marking fish and pitching right at them. And we were just using bobbers and leeches. We could scratch out some fish doing that. But when it got flat calm midday, it could be a little tougher. And the fish that I could mark so easily on the side, like I said, were a little bit tougher to get to bite. But when I went up to the top, those seemed to be more active and aggressive. Moving on to the smallmouth. Smallmouth bite's been really good out here. You definitely have some periods midday where it may slow down for a bit. But it comes right back around every day. We've had good luck out here. We've had some days better than others, but overall it's been a good bite. Now we're going to start seeing some differences here shortly. Actually, it's going on right now. Over the last week or so, I've been switching over to some different baits. The swim bait's going to be much more of a play from now, through the end of the season. I like a little 4-inch paddle tail swim bait, something kind of minnow colored with just a 1/4 ounce head. Cast it out, let it sink to the bottom, reel it in slow. It's a great way to cover water. You can make some contact with the larger rocks and boulders that are down there, and it really gets fish to go. The other one that's always a mainstay on the lake is the bottom dragging baits, whether it's a tube, a Ned rig, or a little jig worm. They just work day in and day out here. Cast them out, drag them in slow. It catches fish even under tough conditions. As far as structures for the smallmouth, I would say that wherever you can find large individual rock, clusters of large rock, break lines that have large rock on them, it's pretty much anywhere where you can find large rock you're going to find bass. I wouldn't get too hung up on depth, and that kind of goes for all the species right now. I wouldn't get too hung up on depth as I would be getting on the right structure. Another thing to try for the smallmouth is you're going to find days where they'll move in shallow, real shallow. 3 feet of water. Wherever you can find rock to sand transitions in shallow, this is a great time of year to find smallmouth on those. One of my favorite ways to catch them is to throw the swim bait. You can cover a lot of water, and when the fish are up that shallow, they're generally pretty aggressive. The bottom dragging baits also work well for that too. Hey, hopefully this information helps you out, and have a great weekend.